They say that the creator was in Tiahuanacu and that his main residence was there. Hence, the magnificent buildings, worthy of admiration, of that place. Father Cristobal de Molina, Relación de las Fábulas y Ritos de los Incas. Mysterious archaeological remains exist all over the world, even in isolated places such as jungles, deserts, and mountainous regions. If we look at them from the point of view of traditional history, many of them have no coherent explanation. The Nazca lines are a good example. Anthony F. Aveni states, "The Nazca lines remain one of the greatest enigmas of ancient civilizations, with their precise geometric shapes and massive figures visible only from the sky, fueling theories of their astronomical or even extraterrestrial purpose." Similarly, in Magicians of the Gods, Graham Hancock argues that orthodox archaeology struggles to explain why the Nazca culture would create such intricate geoglyphs without a clear practical purpose. However, there are other lesser-known and more surprising cases, such as the enigmatic archaeological site of Tiahuanaco. Austrian archaeologist Poznański suggested that Tiahuanaco predates all known Andean civilizations and was once a major center of an advanced culture whose knowledge of engineering and astronomy is still not fully understood. Zechariah Sitchin furthers this idea in the Cosmic Code by stating, "The precision of Tiwanaku's stone cutting and its alignment with celestial events suggest a level of sophistication that challenges conventional explanations." Additionally, Alan L. Colata, Distinguished Service Professor at the University of Chicago, recognizes that Tiwanaku's rise as an influential Andean center occurred under circumstances that are still not completely understood, given the region's harsh climatic conditions. According to traditional history, the Tiahuanaco culture developed in Bolivia 1,500 years BC near the shores of Lake Titicaca. The Tiahuanaco culture expanded throughout much of the Andean Plateau on the border between present-day Bolivia, Peru, and Chile, and reached its peak between the 4th and 10th centuries AD. It was Pedro Cieza de León who, in the mid-16th century, first recorded the testimonies of local indigenous people who told him that the megalithic buildings of Tiahuanaco had been constructed by an ancient civilization that preceded the Incas. Luis Felipe Villacorta, The Cultures of Ancient Peru. Tiwanaku was an influential cultural and political force in the Andes, whose impact extended far beyond its immediate geographical area. It was the inhabitants of Tiahuanaco who originated the Inca culture, which would become the largest empire known in the Southern Hemisphere. As archaeologist Alan L. Colata states, Tiwanaku's influence on the Inca is evident in their religious iconography, architectural techniques, and even their myths of origin. Likewise, John Janusek, associate professor in the Department of Anthropology at Vanderbilt University, emphasizes that the socio-political organization of Tiwanaku laid the groundwork for later Andean empires, including the Incas, who adapted and expanded upon its ceremonial and administrative practices. Tiahuanaco mysteriously became extinct around the 12th century. According to Dr. Michael Binford of the University of Florida, evidence suggests that a prolonged drought may have played a role in the decline of Tiwanaku, but the precise circumstances of its collapse remain unclear. Tiahuanaco lasted from its beginnings just over 2,500 years. However, as professor of anthropology at UCLA, Charles Stanish explains, the lack of written records and the destruction of its structures over time have left scholars with only partial insights into its complex social and religious systems. Furthermore, Protzen and Nair suggest that the precision of Tiwanaku's megalithic structures and their astronomical alignments indicate a sophisticated knowledge base that remains difficult to fully understand. The few archaeological remains that have come down to us tell of an extraordinary civilization with surprising architectural techniques. As Colata, 1993, notes, the Tiwanaku civilization engineered a highly sophisticated system of raised field agriculture, demonstrating advanced hydraulic knowledge that allowed them to sustain a large population in a challenging environment. Furthermore, Protzen and Nair, 2013, suggest that the architectural precision and alignment of Tiwanaku's structures indicate a deep understanding of astronomy, likely used for both ceremonial and agricultural purposes. Traditional history still fails to explain how the stone blocks of the neighboring site, Puma Punku, could have been cut so perfectly. As Protzen, 1994, states, the fine craftsmanship and perfectly cut modular blocks of Puma Punku demonstrate a level of precision that remains difficult to achieve even with modern tools. Similarly, Ponce Sanguinés, 1995, argues that Puma Punku's stonework exhibits a technological mastery that is unparalleled in pre-Columbian South America. It is highly unlikely that any of the stones in Puma Punku were cut using ancient stone-cutting techniques, at least not those that we are aware of. As we have already discussed, the only tools seemingly available at the time would have been stone hammers and perhaps bronze chisels. The fact that bronze clasps have been found at Puma Punku means that the builders clearly had knowledge of metallurgy. However, the accuracy and fine finish would be practically impossible to achieve using these tools. The stone is simply too hard, and the edges too crisp. Brian Förster, Lost Ancient Technology of Peru and Bolivia. The site featured geometric designs never before seen in the region. Some of the stone blocks used at Punku were truly massive and bear comparison with the size of the stones used at Stonehenge. The largest single block of the Puma Punku is of sandstone over 25 feet long, with a volume exceeding 1,500 cubic feet and weighing between 100 and 130 tons. If this stone came from the nearest sandstone quarry, it would represent a massive expenditure of human energy. Toni Morrison, Pathways to the Gods. As Marcos P. Rivas explains in El Misterio de las Ruinas de Tiwanaku, many of the statues and monoliths at Tiwanaku were moved from their original locations due to looting, natural disasters, and inadequate archaeological preservation efforts. Likewise, John Janusek, Associate Professor in the Department of Anthropology at Vanderbilt University, emphasizes that the full extent of Tiwanaku's urban layout and the original placement of its monumental sculptures remain largely unknown due to centuries of disturbance. We also do not know for sure the age and meaning of the so-called Gate of the Sun. As Bolivian archaeologist Ponce Sanguinés notes, the Gate of the Sun remains one of Tiwanaku's greatest mysteries, with its intricate carvings interpreted as a celestial calendar, a religious symbol, or even a depiction of deities whose full meaning has yet to be deciphered. There have been some unusual writings on Tiahuanaco over the years. For instance, here is what the secret documents of Garcilaso of Vega revealed, translated and commented on by Mr. Beltran. The pictographic writings of Tiahuanaco say that in the era of the giant tapirs, very advanced human beings with blood, different from ours, found their suitability in the lake of the earth, Titicaca. During their spaceflight, the pilots gave the lake the shape of a human being lying on the back. They did not forget the navel, the place where our first mother would be posed, in charge of the insemination of human intelligence. Robert Charroux, 100,000 Years of Man's Unknown History. In the early 1950s, building on the theories of the German M. Urbiger, Denis Saurat developed an incredible theory. 3 million years ago, the Moon would have been so close to Earth that its gravitational force would have caused the emergence of a race of 3-meter-tall giants, and at the same time, the formation of a static ring of oceanic waters around the planet, rising over 3,000 meters in the Andean region. Consequently, during this period, Tiahuanaco would have been a seaport inhabited by highly civilized human giants. Douglas Josu, Lo que la humanidad olvidó. The stone works at the ruins consist of such structures as the Gate of the Sun, a portal carved from a single block of stone weighing 15 tons. The stone steps of the Kalasasaya, each of which is a rectangular block of stone about 30 feet wide. The so-called idols, which are giant, about 23 feet tall representatives of unusual-looking beings, with typical Tiahuanaco heads and traces, and the enormous monolithic stone blocks, many of which appear to have been cast rather than carved, are some of these unusual features. Helmut Zettel, Tiahuanaco and the Deluge. North of the Akapana pyramid is a rectangular enclosure known as the Kalasasaya, constructed of alternating tall stone columns and smaller rectangular blocks. According to Charles Stanish, professor of anthropology at UCLA, Kalasasaya appears to have served both as a ritual center and an astronomical observatory, aligned with solstices and other celestial events, which suggests a sophisticated knowledge of the movement of the sun and stars. This statement supports the idea that Tiwanaku held a central place in Andean mythology and was considered a sacred site of divine origins. As Bauer and Stanish, 2001, note, Tiwanaku was regarded as a place of great religious significance, possibly linked to the Andean creation myths that were later adopted and modified by the Incas. Nevertheless, there was a lot more going on here than just religion and stargazing. Archaeologist Arthur Poznański investigated Tiahuanaco for almost 3 decades and made unexpected discoveries. In 1945, Poznański suggested that the architectural complexity of Tiwanaku, particularly the precision of its stonework and the orientation of its structures, indicates an advanced understanding of astronomy and engineering, which remains difficult to explain through conventional historical narratives. Poznański noted, the presence of uniform perforations in Tiwanaku's stone blocks suggests the use of metallic clamps or fasteners, a technique also observed in other advanced pre-Columbian structures. Similarly, Protzen and Nair, 2013, stated that the precise drilling of holes in Puma Punku's and Tiwanaku's megalithic stones raises questions about the tools and techniques employed by their builders. His research concluded that the walls, cornices, and porticos of Tiahuanaco were covered with gold. Poznański wrote, the use of gold in Tiwanaku's architectural elements aligns with Andean traditions of covering sacred structures with precious metals. Furthermore, Heather Lechtman, director of archaeology and ethnology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, confirms that Tiwanaku had an advanced knowledge of metallurgy, and evidence suggests that elite structures were once decorated with gold, later stripped away by the Incas or looters. Could Tiahuanaco's many questions be answered by the ancient astronaut theory? Swiss researcher Erich von Däniken argues that certain ancient structures, including those at Tiwanaku, exhibit characteristics that suggest influences beyond human technological capabilities of the time. The indigenous population, according to Poznański, had named the main temple Akapana, like their ancestors. In the ancient Aymara language, this name means the place where the watchers dwell. He often doubted his own discoveries, consulted with other scientists, and was forced to reach the same conclusion, namely that Tiwanaku must be considered a kind of prehistoric metropolis, built before the Great Flood by beings who were in some way much more evolved than would have been possible for Stone Age man. Erich von Däniken, Twilight of the Gods. Additionally, Azerbaijan scholar Zechariah Sitchin claims that the Anunnaki, an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, came to Earth in search of resources and played a role in shaping early human societies, including those in the Andes. Sitchin, in particular, presented us with an alternative and bold story that makes all the pieces of this puzzle fit together nicely. Sitchin, 2007, writes, the alignment of Tiwanaku's structures with celestial bodies, combined with its unexplained advanced construction techniques, supports the notion that an external, highly advanced intelligence contributed to its development. Of course, mainstream scholars argue that there is no direct evidence to support extraterrestrial contact, and Tiwanaku's achievements can be explained through indigenous ingenuity and gradual technological advancements. According to Sitchin's research, ancient Tiahuanaco would have been built in the likeness of the Sumerian Uruk, which had many of its buildings covered in gold. Sitchin asserts the similarities between Tiahuanaco and Mesopotamian cities are too strong to be coincidental, suggesting an ancient connection, possibly influenced by extraterrestrial beings. According to Sitchin, these two cities are the work of the Anunnaki gods, who would have come to Earth thousands of years ago in search of gold. Sitchin states, the Anunnaki, an advanced extraterrestrial race, came to Earth to mine gold, a resource they required for atmospheric restoration on their home planet, Nibiru. He further suggests that the presence of sophisticated megalithic structures at Tiwanaku and Puma Punku, combined with unexplained metallurgical advancements, indicates external intervention beyond human capability at the time. Around 6000 BC, a group of these aliens settled on the shores of Lake Titicaca to exploit the region's gold. Sitchin, 1998, argues, ancient texts and Andean oral traditions suggest that the first advanced settlements in the region were not created by indigenous peoples alone, but were influenced by an external force, possibly the Anunnaki. While mainstream archaeology disputes extraterrestrial involvement, researchers acknowledge that Tiwanaku demonstrated remarkable metallurgical expertise, with evidence of large-scale gold and copper processing long before the rise of the Inca civilization. At Tiwanaku, the Anunnaki are said to have developed an incredible civilization based on the extraction and processing of not only gold, but also other metals. According to Sitchin, 2007, the Anunnaki's mining activities led to the establishment of Tiwanaku as a metallurgical hub, explaining why this ancient civilization possessed advanced knowledge of metalworking techniques that would later be adopted by the Incas. Supporting this, Cook et al. Note that evidence of mercury pollution and large-scale metal processing in the Andes suggests that metallurgy was an integral part of Tiwanaku's economy. Sitchin claims that the gold ornamentation with which Tiahuanaco was dressed had a straightforward motive. Sitchin states, the extensive use of gold in Tiwanaku was not merely for decorative or ritualistic purposes, but was meant to honor the arrival of Anu, the supreme ruler of the Anunnaki, who oversaw the mining operations on Earth. Anu came to inspect the places where the gold needed to save the atmosphere of his planet Nibiru was being extracted. Sitchin suggests that the alignment of Kalasasaya's monolithic structures was designed to track celestial movements, including the periodic return of Anu and other Anunnaki figures. Supporting this claim, Rivas states, the astronomical significance of Kalasasaya is evident in its alignment with solstices, indicating that it played a crucial role in Tiwanaku's cosmology. Some researchers point out that we only know 5% of what its capital was like, and no one has been able to decipher its iconography. As Ponce Sanguinet, 1995, states, despite extensive archaeological efforts, much of Tiwanaku remains buried, and the meaning of its intricate iconography is still a matter of speculation. Similarly, Colata notes that the iconography of Tiwanaku, including its engravings and monoliths, suggests a highly developed symbolic system whose interpretation continues to elude scholars. We also do not know the exact age of its main monuments, which have been dated anywhere from 1000 BC to 15,000 BC. Poznański controversially proposed that Tiwanaku could be over 15,000 years old based on archaeo-astronomical calculations of the Kalasasaya temple. Stanish, 2002, acknowledges that the exact origins of Tiwanaku remain uncertain, and its dating continues to be debated among scholars. Sitchin argues that the Great Flood, referenced in ancient texts and myths across cultures, dramatically reshaped the Earth's landscape, exposing vast mineral resources, including gold, in the Andean region. Sitchin states, nowhere else on the lake is there a flat plateau. Nowhere else is there a lagoon nearby that connects to the rest of the lake, making water transport feasible. And nowhere else were the precious metals, gold and silver, copper and tin, so close at hand. This aligns with research indicating that Tiwanaku was strategically located near crucial trade routes and mineral deposits, which allowed it to thrive as an economic and metallurgical center. Colata, 1993. Furthermore, Lechtman states, the Andean region had some of the most advanced metallurgical practices of the pre-Columbian world, with Tiwanaku playing a crucial role in the development of metalworking techniques. In addition, Cook et al. In 2007 confirmed that the environmental record of the Peruvian and Bolivian highlands shows significant traces of ancient metal processing. Sitchin suggests that Anu's journey to Earth was not merely ceremonial, it was an inspection of the critical gold mining operations that had been established at Tiwanaku and other locations. But in just over 2,000 years, the Anunnaki had virtually exhausted the precious mineral in the area. Sitchin, 1996, states, by 2000 BC, the Anunnaki had depleted the once rich gold deposits of the Andes, leading to their eventual departure and the decline of Tiwanaku's role as a primary mining hub. Meanwhile, modern research shows that, by the later periods of Tiwanaku's history, metal production shifted towards bronze alloys, suggesting a scarcity of previously abundant raw materials. Arthur Poznansky has proven that gold and tin were exploited first in Tiahuanaco and later bronze, and this agrees with Sitchin's theory. Poznansky, 1945, stated, "The metallurgical advancements of Tiwanaku show a clear transition from the extraction of gold and tin to the production of bronze, suggesting a highly organized system of mining and metalworking." But the story does not end here. The inhabitants of Tiahuanaco would once again play a leading role in the history of Peru. Centuries later, a new Anunnaki intervention put the Tiahuanaco once again on the path to development, prosperity, and gold. Keep an eye out for our next video. If I can piece it all together, there may be a part 2 coming soon. Thanks for watching.